It's day one of the 2020 Phillips 66 Big 12 Men and Women's Basketball Championships. We're here inside the Sprint Center where all of the action is set to tip off tonight at 6 p.m. Alongside Aaron Pryor, I'm Morgan Uber. For the first time in 8 years, the Men and Women's Basketball Championships are here in Kansas City. One event with two great championships really uniting fan bases from all 20 programs.
It's the most exciting time of the year. We're in Kansas City, the college basketball capital of the world, not just the country, of the world. We're sitting outside the College Basketball Museum. There's not a better place to do this show. There's not a better place to play college basketball and to host both the men's and women's Big 12 basketball championships.
The men's is set to begin tonight, and first we take a look at that men's bracket. How about Baylor finishing as the number 2 seed? What a historic season it has been for them, holding the number 1 spot in the country for 5 consecutive weeks. And then Oklahoma at number 3. Heck, they would have been playing tonight had they not beaten TCU in that final regular season game as the number 7 seed. But now they're sitting at number 3.
And that game that you're talking about was the huge comeback at TCU. TCU ends up being the 7 seed in this year's bracket. I know we'll get into Oklahoma, but so impressive the way that they ended the year to get up to that 3 seed.
Shifting our focus to the women, how about TCU landing at that number 2 spot? They had 13 Big 12 wins this year, which is a record. It's TCU's highest seed in their program history.
Yeah, with TCU, this is a veteran team, one of the most veteran teams in the Big 12. A team that Reagan Peebly has finally gotten to play the type of basketball she wants to play, the way that she wanted them to play. They earned this 2 seed, and I'm looking forward to watching them and seeing what they can do this week.
At number 4, Iowa State, they had a huge win over Baylor to end that regular season. A little bit of that Hilton magic coming to life there.
Yeah, a great way for them to end the year. Ashley Jones, of course, the leading scorer in the Big 12. Bridget Carlson last year took her under her wing. Those dividends are finally showing and finally paying off for Iowa State. They come in just as hot as anybody.
The number 1 seed on the women's side, Baylor, of course, the regular season champs. They're number 3 in the country. They're the defending national champs, a huge part in due to their experience. They bring back 8 returners from that national championship team. They have just 1 freshman, 2 grad transfers, and it's been their offense that it's inside and outside. They really just can't be stopped.
And don't forget to mention the head coach that's leading the charge, the 8-time Big 12 Coach of the Year after winning it again this year, Coach Mulkey. She knows what she's doing. She's got a fantastic team, maybe even a better team this year than she had last year, which is hard to believe. Baylor, even though they lost the end of the regular season, they're looking to do big things this year. And if there's a Final Four team out there, Baylor's definitely at the top of that list.
Better than they were last year. That's a scary thought for any team not named Baylor as the national champs. Now, shifting our focus to the men's side regular season champs, Kansas. It seems like every year the regular season championship on the men's side goes through Allen Fieldhouse. This year, no different.
A 16-game win streak right now. You've talked about it before. After that Baylor game, haven't lost since then. They're as complete of a team as we have in all of college basketball. All the experts out there say that this is the top team coming into the NCAA tournament. They still need to perform this weekend, though. They can't just come in and lose in the first round. So much has happened and changed throughout this college basketball season. KU needs to come in and put on a strong performance and go in strong into the NCAA championship this year.
And with the Player of the Year, Udoka Azubuike, and point guard Devon Dotson, that should be a feat that this team should be able to accomplish. Therefore, fan bases that will be sure to be packing this place tonight with the first round matchups. First, we're going to dive into that 8-9 matchup, Oklahoma State versus Iowa State. First, let's look at those Cyclones. They won this conference tournament last year as the number 5 seed.
Yeah, this is a team that no matter what seed they are, no matter what year it is, no matter how they're doing throughout the season, Iowa State shows up in this championship every single year. Aside from Kansas, they bring the most fans down here from Ames. This place, they call it Hilton South, so we know that they're going to have that home game type of feel. We had a chance to talk with Michael Jacobson earlier this week, and he said, yeah, Iowa State's had a ton of success here, especially in the last few years. They know what they need to do. They know how to handle this championship. They've won it, as you mentioned, as a quote-unquote lower seed. Iowa State, it doesn't matter how they come in. They're going to be confident. They're going to have the backing of all their fans behind them. They've made a lot of good memories here in Kansas City, and you can't count Iowa State out no matter what.
However, one player you'll be able to count out for them is their star point guard Tyrese Halliburton. He's missed the final 8 regular season games due to a fractured left wrist. He'll likely be an NBA lottery pick. He actually finished as all Big 12 second team. He had double figures in 19 games for this season. They'll certainly be missing him out here in this one and done type of game here tonight.
Yeah, tough to lose anybody like Tyrese Halliburton. No matter how good or bad your season's going, they didn't have him the back half of conference play, and we've seen the results from some of these games. You definitely want somebody like that playing for you as much as you possibly can. You do have Prentice Nixon if you're Iowa State. He's going to step in and play point guard. He's had some ankle injuries all year long that he's been dealing with, but he said he feels good. He said nothing really changes for them, that anybody should be able to step in and play point guard for this Iowa State team, and he certainly is up to the task. We don't know the status, though, of Rasir Bolton. Steve Prohm said on Tuesday that he's day-to-day. Didn't really get an indication of what we would be looking at with him. It sounds like Nixon's ready to go, and we'll see what we get out of Iowa State on Wednesday.
The injury to Bolton, that was a head injury that happened on Tuesday against West Virginia. He didn't play in that final regular season game against Kansas State, and we don't know his status. But the Iowa State Cyclones, they've had to put together 7 different lineups this season, so we don't know who Coach Prohm will put out in his starting 5. It should be interesting. Now we turn our attention, though, to their opponent, Oklahoma State. The Cowboys are one of the hottest teams entering the postseason. They started conference play 0-8, and they finished conference play. It's not about how you start, it's how you finish. They've won 7 of these last 10 games. They're riding a 3-game win streak coming into the Big 12 championship. How have they done it?
Yeah, you've got to look at these seniors. I mean, it's Cam McGriff, it's Thomas Dzagwa, who had a career high in the final game of the year for Oklahoma State. It's Lindy Waters. These are guys that have been in this program. These are guys that have delivered for this team time and time again. Really interesting, though, to learn from Mike Boynton exactly what keyed the turnaround for this Oklahoma State team.
I credit Cam, along with other things, but Cam most vocally, most demonstrably for the kind of the turnaround, really. Talked about it with some of our local media. Going into our first game with Oklahoma, we were 0-7 maybe. I can't remember exactly. And it was the first time that I saw Cam make up his mind that his senior year was going to finish on a positive note. And it was the way he practiced and the way he talked to his teammates in practice and about preparation, to a point where we had some physical altercations in practice, which were somewhat necessary but healthy at the same time. It wasn't personal, but it was meaningful, and his teammates took it the right way.
So it'll be interesting to see how Oklahoma State continues that momentum. Let's see if that fire remains in those Cowboys as they take on Iowa State Wednesday night.
Shifting gears to the later matchup of the night, TCU versus Kansas State. TCU coming in as the number 7 seed, and they're also coming off a 20-point blown lead over Oklahoma in the final seconds. However, they have one of the best players in the Big 12, senior guard Desmond Bane. He's won more games than any other player in TCU history.
He's also made more threes than anybody in TCU history. He's the do-everything guy, and somebody that, of course, TCU has got to have going on all cylinders if they're going to win this game. Desmond Bane means a ton to the men's basketball program, but his impact stretches beyond the court as well.
What he's done on campus and what his impact on campus and with students and administration and coaches and fans. I mean, he's just a great, always in a good mood, pleasant, and enjoys himself, enjoys campus life, enjoys going to classes, enjoys being around people, and enjoys playing basketball. So, I mean, I can't say enough about him.
An interesting stat, if Bane plays well, TCU is 18-5 in his career, so they really do need a lot. That's really telling of what he's been able to do for the program. Now we shift our gears to this number 10 seed Kansas State, and they're going to need a lot from one of their seniors as well.
Xavier Sneed has meant a lot, just as much to Kansas State as Desmond Bane has meant to TCU. Sneed is coming off a career high to end the regular season and is going to have to continue his personal momentum to try to lead this team to what would be an upset victory. And if you're Kansas State, you also need to get a lot out of Akardier Jara. You've got to get a lot of McCall Mayween maybe. Somebody else has got to step up. It can't just be Sneed that does it all. And if they get a couple of guys going, anything could happen in this 7-10 matchup.
One person that's been around all 10 of these Big 12 teams, probably more than anyone else in the country, is ESPN analyst Fran Fraschilla. I had the opportunity to talk with him yesterday during shoot-around, and I asked him, with conference championships, it's a lot about who's hot at the right time. And Fran gave me his answers and a lot more right here.
Kansas has been pretty hot because I don't think they've lost in a while, and they are the champion. They're the best team coming in. There's no question about that, the way they finished the regular season. But if you're looking for teams recently on a hot streak, watch out for Oklahoma State. They're coming in. They've won 7 out of 10. They're healthy. We saw Ice Likely down in Austin play like the guy we saw before his illness. West Virginia's got a couple in a row. They were tough against Baylor. Oklahoma, if they get another performance like that from Austin Reeves with Doolittle, with Brady Manick, they're dangerous too. And of course, Baylor's had a great season despite the recent hiccups. More about injuries and less about how they're playing. And so I think they're going to be dangerous too.
Bracketology has 6 Big 12 teams in the NCAA tournament. Who of those teams needs a must-win game here in this championship in order to move on?
Yeah, it has to be Texas. I've got a chance to see them lately, and they've been so hot. 5 in a row, called a couple of those games, the buzzer beater up in Norman. I lost my voice that night.
Oh my goodness! Wow! The season stays alive!
But then they didn't play well on Saturday at home. So I think this game against Texas Tech is critical. I also think Texas Tech, while it looks like they're in, they have to treat this as a must game on Thursday as well, because you don't want the committee to see 5 straight losses, even though we know they've played pretty well in losing. That's going to be a big game. It's going to be one of the early games on Thursday. It's the earliest game on Thursday. It's going to be fun.
Championships are a lot about being hot at the right time. What's your prediction? Who's playing in the game? What's the score?
Oh, man, it's a good question. I'm going to stick with Baylor and Kansas. I think we deserve a third rubber game, I guess you would. And I think Kansas, if they're healthy, which they look like they are right now, Baylor doesn't seem to be quite as healthy. I think Kansas is going to win the rubber match. But it's been a fun Big 12 season, some great basketball individually and with teams. And no matter who wins Saturday night, we're going to have a great show in here.
To Fran's point, a round 3 of Baylor-Kansas would be pretty amazing, but right now all of our attention is on this first round, the 7-10 versus the 8-9. We'll be bringing you this Championship Central preview show every single morning throughout the entirety of the championship, so be sure to join us at 9 a.m., whatever platform you decide to choose, from Big 12 Now on ESPN Plus to literally all of our Big 12 social media platforms.
It's an exciting time of year. ESPNU, 6 p.m. we get going tonight with our first game. It's going to be a long week. It's going to be an exciting week here in Kansas City, and I cannot wait to get going. For Morgan Uber, I'm Aaron Pryor. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you tomorrow on Championship Central.